Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, the Yankees end the first half of the season with a strong sweep over the Washington Nationals and with some dramatics in the ninth inning and ninth inning of all three games there, making it excitable. Now, again, the Nationals have a terrible bullpen, so I wouldn't go crazy over it, but pretty exciting games. And really, the Friday game with Jazz, probably, I don't know, as far as I remember, probably his most dramatic, best clutch home run so far overall as a Yankee. So, again, I've been criticizing him a lot for that, kind of disappearing in the later innings of the game with his bat there, but coming through big time to turn a Yankee deficit into a lead. And then, the new Yankee hot hitter there, Austin Wells, all of a sudden attacking on some runs as well. But overall, very satisfying 3 games for the New York Yankees. And just what the doctor ordered just after a couple of, 2 or 3 weeks of this miserable baseball. It seemed like the world was collapsing. And then you have a Tampa series where you really got to hold your breath. Okay, the Yankees split there. And I kind of said, that's really, I was calling for this, more than a week ago. Just split the Tampa series and have an okay series in D.C. Now, I wasn't expecting a sweep, and it is possible, again, because the national pitching isn't the greatest there, but sweep Tampa, don't fall behind there, and just be respectable in D.C. 2 out of 3 would have been fine with me, but again, Yankees go one better than that, and sweep the series there to end the first half of the year there, and in a strong suit, just for, you just see the players, much more relaxed, have a smile on their face after being, tense for most of June and then leading into July. So we'll kind of get into that and, just maybe discuss the All-Star game a little bit, because Cam Schlittler deciding to not participate, and I think that's a good idea for the Yankees. In the long run, he hasn't been the sharpest lately, so I'd rather him just work his normal bullpen session and not compete there on Tuesday. That's fine with me, but we will get a little Yankee representation, at least with Ben Rice in the home run derby. So we'll get into the whole thing. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast, and there's also the YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and subscribe there as well. So when it's all said and done, the Yankees find themselves right now at 54-42, so that's 3 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, which is really nothing. You could really make that up in a week. It's not a big deal. But again, for all the problems they had with, especially their offensive woes, the Yankees weren't doing what they're doing. Of course, their offense is mainly off the home run. We all know that. And the Yankees brought out the lumber. It really kind of started in that final game against Tampa where they busted out for 12 runs. It was really by that 6-run third inning. And then from there, this team just seemed to kind of got on the roll. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and say, well, they just turned the season around there, but it did remind me a little bit. If you want to go back to the last time the Yankees won a championship, that was 2009. It was around June. They just had a miserable series. It was a bunch of interleague series in a row that featured the Florida Marlins and the Atlanta Braves, and the Yankees were really just playing bad. And it was that game, again, the exact situation, but the Yankees probably lost a game against the Braves the night before, and there was a real funk there. Supposedly, there was a team meeting, and Girardi kind of aired the team out, and it was some sort of real big moment happened. And then in the next game after that, Francisco Cervelli hit a grand slam. I know that the Yankees won that game there, and then really from that point over, it was somewhere in June, the Yankees has rolled the whole way into, of course, we all know what they did to close out 2009. That's, of course, with the last time they won a World Series. And I'm not going to say it's the same situation this team, because at least at that point, then the Yankees did have all their big guys, all their big guns. Again, they had, they bought CC, they bought AJ Burnett in, they bought Mark Teixeira in. Now, it took him a while to really get it going, but he finally did there. And even A-Rod missing a chunk of the beginning of the season, coming back from the hip surgery, and then he started clicking. So the only difference is back in 2009 that the Yankees had all the big pieces when they went on that big run there. The difference this time, we still have some question marks. You have guys still yet to be back with his teams there. So that's why I'm not going to say this is exactly the same thing, but it kind of feels like a little bit, because at that time you felt a bit of a worm turning, as Joe Torre used to say, and you could just feel a little bit of a worm turning with that big win against Tampa, just to tie that series there. And then you got to sweep with 3 dramatic late inning heroics to sweep the Nationals there. So it kind of feels similar, but it doesn't. I would feel a little bit better if Judge is back, or at least we had a bit of timetable on Judge, and if Stanton was here, Fried was here. It's all right, we got all our guys now, we're playing good. Okay, let's close out the summer strong and head into the fall there. So you still have some question marks. That's why it doesn't feel exactly the same, but it does feel a little bit similar, because there's something clicked with that 2009 Yankee team where you knew they were good, they were on paper, they were good there, but they were struggling out of the gate. Boston got off to a real good start. And then something just clicked with them, and then from there on they took off. And you're kind of just waiting for this team to kind of do the same thing. But again, you just can't really confirm that really yet there because we still just a lot of stuff in the air regarding Judge and Stanley Matley. But of course, Fried as well as Rendon down for a while as well there. So not exactly the same. But nevertheless, that's going to, again, a great way just to close out the first half of the year. Because then again, gives you a couple of days off. Some guys could definitely use a rest. And then you kind of focus on the second half of the season there where, you hope you get some of these pieces back and then finally hopefully get a chance to leapfrog the Rays in the standings. But of the three games, of course, the most satisfying one was the Friday night opener in the ninth inning with the Yankees down by a run. With I believe Ben Rice on, a runner on there, Jazz with a big dramatic ninth inning 2-run home run to turn a 3-2 Yankee deficit into a 4-3 Yankee lead. And again, for a lot of the criticism of Jazz I've had is that he just never comes up with a big hit late in the game there. And just from the 2.5+ half years he's been here in the Bronx, I can't remember him hitting any ninth inning of big dramatic home runs like that where the Yankees were down and with one swing he swings to score there late in the game there. So hey, I'll criticize when I criticize, and I'll tip my hat when I'll tip my hat. That was probably the most clutch home run he's hit as a New York Yankee. And supposedly before that game, it was kind of one of the guys spoke up in the clubhouse that the team needs to sort of get it together again. And over the couple of 3 weeks that they've been in a bit of a funk there, that he felt like guys were falling apart a little bit and detached and not hanging out together, not having fun. And it could have been just some of the layover also with the Knicks championship. Then the Knicks were kind of dominating the scene for a little bit. So you had some players going to some of the finals games there, and just the Knicks were all getting attention. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but had probably more to do with that. It was just the usual Yankee summer swoon when especially big name players like Judge and Fried, who was your ace before that, are out, and of course some other guys were struggling a little bit there. So I don't know about that, but nevertheless, Jazz supposedly was the guy who spoke up, and he put his money where his mouth is because he came up in a clutch situation there to put the Yankees' turn to score there. And then of course you get Austin Wells for 2 games in a row hitting home runs there, and of course following up there to pad the Yankees lead to 5-3, and the Yankee able to close out that game. And the other two, very similar, not really I would say the Saturday game, but more the Sunday game. Same thing, the Yankees were behind in the ninth inning, and then they get a runner on, and then Trent Grisham, he's been back for a little bit, but he really hasn't gone too crazy yet with the home run ball. He's not going to hit the 34 home runs he gave you last year, and of course now he's missed some time there, but he's always a threat to go deep, and we've seen this before with him actually. He's pretty much cool as a cucumber. We've seen him hit some big dramatic home runs for the Yankees, in the 2+ years he's been here, and again, pretty much what Jazz did, a score swinging, I guess home run you could call that, a score swinging there to give the Yankees a 3-2 lead, and they tack on a little bit more for there, and then we'll win the final game at a score of 5-3 there and complete the sweep. And again, we know the Nationals bullpen's terrible there, so it's not something we're going to go down the canyon heroes with. But this team needed it because again they've been struggling for offense, but just something to be happy about, good dramatic home runs, and it's just good to see it. We knew a lot of these guys were struggling, not only the big players, but Ben Rice obviously been breaking out of it since really the Tampa series, and he's didn't stop there. But other guys, even though if they have low averages, guys like Trent Grisham, guys like Jazz, and even last year you had guys like Austin Wells that would just bop some home runs here and there, that providing enough offense for this team, and they were not getting those home runs from anybody other than just Ben Rice, who just woke up over the last week there. But it's good now to finally see some other guys finally contributing, like Grisham and Jazz there, so you're not relying on just Bellinger and Rice to carry the load. Now those two guys got to do a lot of the heavy lifting because you're depending on them in the middle of the lineup, but even Goldschmidt as well getting the home run during the weekend there. Again, his bat's been quiet there, so again you need the role players to step up as well there, and just enough good pitching, not say phenomenal great pitching, but just enough good pitching. Of course, Weathers probably pitched better enough that he would earn the win there, but if the Yankees fell behind there, and Tim Hill, what a rough weekend for him there. Not going to get on him again. He's mostly been money since he's been here with the Yankees, but you talk about Friday night giving up back-to-back home runs to choke away a lead, and in the Sunday game also giving up a big home run, and Woods has really killed the Yankees the whole weekend there, but Tim Hill has been brutal over this final 3 games, so I'm sure I guess he could definitely use the rest over the All-Star break. I hope he's just not losing it or breaking down a little bit, because usually don't see him like that. Again, the Friday night one was on back-to-back pitches there, so that's a little bit scary there on the very almost money reliable Tim Hill there, and again that's definitely the main lefty you count on there, and this weekend was brutal for him, but the Yankee bats picked him up for once. It was the Yankee offense finally picking up the Yankee pitching, whereas the Yankee pitching that has been the better part of that team as of late there. So again, hopefully this Hill could use the breather of these two games, and could be a little bit stronger there in the second half. And getting to Cam Schlittler, of course, he's making the decision that he does not want to participate participate in the All-Star game. Totally understand it. This looks like where things lined up. He wasn't really the strongest in the Saturday game. He kind of, quote unquote, battled through it. And I kind of like that. You have a situation where you don't have your best stuff. You don't have your best control. He just wasn't striking everyone out there, and he had to grind it. He gave up 2 home runs. He walked a bunch of batters. He's been kind of doing that lately, a little bit scary there, but kind of grinded through it. Got at least at that point, walking away with a lead. And then, of course, the Yankee offense was able to sort of close out the game for him. So not his best stuff there, but able to, grind it out. And I got in the same situation. He hasn't been sharp lately. He had a bad game in Boston, came back strong against Tampa, but then you have kind of an iffy game against the Nationals, and he's going to do a lot of career highs in terms of inning pitch and stuff like this. Again, remember last year he didn't come up till July there, so it's going to be his first major league full season there. So he's got to get his rest when he can there. And if you have a situation you're like, okay, yeah, you could be about you could be on the spotlight there. He probably definitely would have gotten the ball to start the All-Star game. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything there, and he's just better off taking the extra rest. And if that's just a bullpen day for him, just a throw day, then fine. And doesn't need to be high leverage and throw 2 innings of high leverage, your best stuff there, because you want to get all-stars out there, and you're going to be facing the best of the best in the National League. You're going to be stretching the stuff out there. So I'm okay with the decision. Yeah, it'd be cool to see, but again, I'd rather just have a better Cam Schlittler for the second half there versus him grinding out another couple innings there during the All-Star game. That's fine with me. And even Zach Wheeler turned it down as well in the National League, even though he'll be pitching in front of his home crowd in Philadelphia. But I guess he just didn't like the way the decision was being made in terms of how pitchers were being selected to the All-Star game, so he declined as well. So Dylan Cease will get the ball for the Toronto Blue Jays to represent the American League. Again, it's all fine with me. But again, the Yankees will get a little action, a little representation as Ben Rice participating in the home run derby, getting hot going into it. It's just like one of those things like you always kind of like, he's hitting well against good quality major league pitching. Do you want him to participate in this thing where he's going to get softball meatballs and easy pitches to hit by his dad there? And if he puts on a good show, great. But then how many guys we see participate and then the second half they're completely is gassed? Now, can you say that one night gasses you out? No, but does it screw up your timing a little bit? Maybe. So I don't know, but I guess just go ahead with it and just hope for the best. And whether he wins or loses, hopefully it doesn't mess up his timing, because again, right now it seems like he's locked in. Again, at least with the home run ball, looking like more of the Ben Rice we've seen the first 2 months of the season there, when he was just raking, going head to head with Aaron Judge. And crazy enough, this kind of peeking around the American League East, because we're always focused on Tampa, but Boston winning 9 games in a row. Crazy enough, they swept the Mets at Citi Field, and I don't think they're going to make like a big second half push. But if you look right now, they were in the depths. They were in 5th place in the American League, pretty much up to this point there. Well, with this run they've been on for about a week and a half there, they've now at least crawled their way into 3rd place in the American League East, leapfrogging with both Toronto and the Baltimore Orioles. And I don't think they're going to be buyers and looking for make a push. Again, I think they'd be more sells. I just don't think they feel they're strong enough to really do that. But only 10 games back, and you got the rest of July, you got all of August and September. I mean, crazier things have happened. Now, that would be quite a colossal choke on both the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays, to give up more space there. But, they're making a strong push. As they say, they probably weren't as bad as they were when they were, playing bad on the Alex Cora, and he needed to be fired there. But, I don't know if they're as good, potentially as good, to make a really strong push there and be a threat in the American League East. But, again, it is worth noting there, and just goes to show that when they were now 15 games back in the American League East, they just kept pushing along, and now they find themselves 10, and he plays strong. Now you find yourself 5, and nevertheless, it really gets back point to the Yankees there. The Yankees fall behind, 4-5. That's why I was like, don't panic, don't go crazy. We don't defy Boone and Cashman. You could make that up in a week or so. Just felt that was worth noting. So that's the episode. The Yankees did the right thing, split in Tampa, sweep a series against the Nationals on the road. Not a total garbage, they're a 500 team, but they don't have a strong bullpen, and the Yankees took advantage of it. And hey, look, it's good just to see that, because now you see that they can do it. Hopefully they can do that also in October. Catch you next time.